If I was
Yeah.
really okay with me, I'd be okay with saying no. And I would be able to say no and know that you're going to be okay and I'm going to be okay because the world does not revolve around me saving the day.
Hey, friend, welcome to the Workforce Link podcast, where we're offering forward-thinking conversations for the workforce, linking employers and job seekers to a brighter tomorrow. I'm your host, Sunday Joe, and man, I am so excited about today's episode. I've been waiting for a while for this one. It has definitely been one of my favorite interviews so far. I am a huge fan of Christy Wright, and I know that you will be too after today's interview. We talked about everything from finding life balance to why we're not doing the right things, how our to-do lists are actually controlling us, and what we can do to take back control. And if you're struggling to raise a family, pursue your career, and not feel guilty about everything, Christy has some great advice for you, my friend. And if you get nothing else out of today's episode, let me say this. I am pretty sure that I was convicted enough for the both of us. Not even kidding. From somebody who loves to keep a to-do list and feel accomplished when I mark things off, I got a little reality check for myself, y'all. So let's dive into today's episode with National Bestselling Author Christy Wright. Christy is a personal growth expert and the host of the Christy Wright Show. She's also the founder of Business Boutique, which equips women to make money doing what they love. And did I mention she's a #1 national bestselling author? So let's dive into today's episode. All right, Christy. Well, I am personally excited about this book. I don't know about anybody else who's read it or is going to read it, but I know it convicted me. So if that's your goal, you definitely succeeded with me. It's one of those things too that you can't, once you learn something, you can't go back from it. So I'm kind of happy and kind of mad at you all at the same time. So
I'll take it. I deserve it.
so before we dive into some deeper nuggets of the book, tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, this is one of those things that it really not only came out of a need that I had as a busy mom of 3 and a career and a lot of interests. I've got a lot of things that I enjoy doing, but it also is the result of 10 years of being asked this question. 10 years of people asking me, men and women, by the way, asking me, how do you balance it all? How do you balance it all? How do you balance everything? And balance was always used as a verb. How do you
Mm.
balance it all? And we have all the analogies. We've got spinning plates and juggling balls, and some balls are plastic and some are glass, and know which ones are which, and all the things, and walking the tightrope. And I just thought, man, this is exhausting.
Right.
And I just started to feel like I can do all that. I can juggle all the balls and spin all the plates, and I could still feel out of balance. And I used to think the solution was just to do more. I just need to wake up earlier. I need to stay up later. I need to multitask in between. I need to be as productive and efficient as possible. And I did all that too. And I still felt out of balance, but now I was just exhausted also. And so it just led me down this path to understand this term, understand maybe what are we really asking? What do we really want? And come up with a new definition of life balance, because what I found is none of us can define it. We don't know what it is. We're just sure we don't have it. And
Right.
so it becomes this thing that haunts us. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to define it. I want to nail it down and define it. And then I want to help people achieve it, their version of balance. And I think a lot of the pressure we feel is comes from this place of this pressure to do everything all the time. We have to do everything all the
Mm-hmm.
time, and we have to do it well and for an equal
Mm-hmm.
amount of time, and all that. That's what balance is. And not only is that not realistic, it's not even desirable.
Right.
And so I wanted to create a new definition. So I came up with this. Life balance is not doing everything for an equal amount of time. Life balance is doing the right things at the right time. And when you do that, when you do the right things at the right time, you will feel that sense of balance that you've been looking for all along. And it's not so much about how you balance it all as a verb, but it's a feeling you create where you become a balanced person in an out of balance world, where you can be balanced and still be busy and have a lot of good things going on. And it looks a lot more like peace, confidence in your choices, being proud of how you spend your time, and being happy in your life. And I think if we're honest, that's what we're after anyway. We're just calling it
Mm-hmm.
balance.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. We're just giving it a title, like a lot of things. Yeah. So the premise of the book, teaching people how to have life balance. You know, the world's crazy, life gets busy. We don't I think sometimes we don't realize that we've reached burnout until boom, we've hit this wall and then we're like, "Oh, we've reached it." But that's not how we're designed to live our lives. In the book, you talk about four main reasons that we can feel out of balance. Can you share a few of those with us?
Yeah, so I really believe life balance is doing the right things at the right time. So we need to know what gets in the way of that. So
Hmm.
there's four main causes. Number one, doing too many things. And this is the most obvious one, but this is one of those things where we just try to cram more in and we pretend as if our time is not finite. And it is. We get 24 hours a day. So as long as you try to cram more in than it can hold or cram more into your life than your energy can show up for, then you're going to be out of balance. And by the way, you're going to be exhausted.
Right.
This is what a lot of us try to do. We just try to do more. We try to work faster to cram it
Hmm.
all in. So that's one cause. The second cause is actually the opposite. It's not doing enough things. And you might think, oh, well, no one struggles with this. But actually, depending on your season of life, someone might be listening and they're an empty nester and their kids have gone off to college and they have all this time and they find themselves feeling bored and out of balance, or someone that newly retired and they're like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with my time. And they're bored and out of balance. Many of us felt this last year in the pandemic. At first, it was like, oh, free time. And then after 3 weeks,
Right.
we're like, we're so bored. So if you don't have responsibilities to show up for, or outlets to pour into, or relationships to connect with, you're going to be bored and out of balance. So doing too many things or not doing enough things are the first two. The second two are doing the wrong things and not doing the right things. And these are slightly different. Doing the wrong things, what I mean by that is if you're spending time on things you hate, it doesn't matter how perfectly you manage your calendar because you're spending your time on things you don't like, things that are not
Right.
important to you. You might have a full-time job that is toxic and drains you. Well, it doesn't matter how you manage your calendar because you spend a large portion of your time doing something you hate. That's going to lead to you feeling out of balance, even if you're managing your calendar. The last and final way is not doing the right things, and that's a little different. What I mean by that is if you have things that are important to you, things that you value deeply, things that are life-giving to you, and you don't spend time on those things, you're going to feel out of balance because there's an
Hmm.
inconsistency in your life between what you care about and what your life really reflects. So, whether that is going to church or date night with your spouse or working out or time alone or starting a business or running a marathon or traveling, whatever, if you've got things that are deeply important to you and you don't spend time on them, there's an incongruency between your values and your time, and you're never going to feel good about that. I remember a
Right.
season years ago, I joined a running group. And this was back when I was single and I didn't really think much of it, but the running group did their long runs to train for a marathon, which I wanted to do on Sunday mornings. And so I started going. And after a few weeks, I started feeling tense and anxious. Like there was this tension in my spirit and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized I'm not going to church. And this
Mm.
isn't a message about you have to be in church,
Right.
but if church is deeply important to you, like it is to me, then that's what was going on there. So I found a way to do my long runs on Saturdays so I could be in church on Sunday because when you're not doing the right things, things that you care about, whatever that is for you, then you're going to feel out of balance. So those are the four things that keep us from doing the right things at the right time, that keeps us from that balance that we're looking for.
Yeah, and I think too, if you're not doing the right things, you're never gonna find that peace you want because you can't get there. It's impossible to get there. I want to go back for a second to the we're not doing the right things. So I've underlined a gajillion things in this book. But you say every commitment on our calendar and every task on our to-do list represents a deeper motivation inside of us. If we don't fix things at the root level, and we only address our calendar, the problems will continue to creep up again and again. Ouch. Number one, ouch. Um, so you're right. We need to get to the root of what's really going on in our heart. So, do you have some tips on how we can do that?
Yeah, so I unpack this in the book because I think that this is what we have to talk about, to exactly what you said. So many of us just try to move the puzzle pieces of our calendar and we
Hmm.
still feel like things aren't right because they're not. I'll give you some personal examples. I walk through five time stealers in the book, and these are five examples of things that can steal your time that you spend time on that are not important to you. But the reason they can be so powerful is that it forces you to check your motivations. It forces you to check what's really important to you, because I think we have this lofty idea of ourselves like, oh, well, I just love to help others. Well, I'm such a good Christian. I just love to serve. Well, God calls us to serve. All that is good and fine and well. But if we're real honest, and I mean real honest, and we get to the deeper motivations, we'll find that there's some other things going on there. And I will go first. I will be the first to admit. Um, there was I shared this in the book, but there was a pastor one time that said there's a very big difference between doing something to be loving and doing it to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
And that cut me to the core, just like you're talking about, where I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, if I'm honest, a lot of my showing up and serving, a lot of my saving the day and being the hero is to earn love. If I was
Yeah.
really okay with me, I'd be okay with saying no. And I would be able to say no and know that you're going to be okay and I'm going to be okay, because the world does not revolve around me saving the day. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think when we start to say what's going on in me that I feel like I have to say yes to that. What's going on in me that I feel like I have to fill up my to-do list with 400 items and only 2 really have to be done. Because one of the other there's parallels between our calendar and our to-do list, but one of the things I talk about in the book is we fill our calendars and fill our to-do list with things and never stop to ask ourselves if any of those things represent anything worth doing.
Right.
We just have this shallow feeling of productivity. We're addicted to doing, we're addicted to accomplishment, we're addicted to busyness, we're addicted to approval from others. And man, if we could start to identify some of those traps and temptations and triggers, then we can become less susceptible to them. So the next time an idea pops in my head, Christy, you need to reorganize your attic. Before I jot that on my to-do list and then hold my feet to the fire, you got to reorganize your attic, and I beat myself up because 3 weeks go by and I didn't reorganize my attic because it was a
Right.
stupid idea to begin with. Then I can start to check it and go, no, girl, no, that attic is fine. It's been fine for a decade. It's still going to be fine. You
Right.
don't need to reorganize it. And you don't put it on the to-do list, which then has an incredible domino effect of peace, relief, less guilt, more time, more enjoyment of your life. But gosh, we have things pop in our head all the time, especially as women. Calling you out, women. We got ideas all day. Oh, you know what I could do? I could make homemade, organic, gluten-free muffins for everyone in kindergarten. Yes, put it on the to-do list. And then you beat yourself up because you're not doing it, or because you're staying up till midnight. It's like, that was a stupid idea to begin with. Don't put
Right.
it on your freaking to-do list. So
Right.
it's just, if we
Right.
stop to actually think about what we are putting on our calendar and think about what we're putting on our to-do list, it would drastically change how we experience our life. And by the way, how much time we actually have.
Right. I hope you're having as much fun as I am in this interview, my friend. Wanted to break for just a second to ask you this question. Are you looking for career training without even having to leave the house? Good news for you, my friend. We've recently launched the Career Club, a virtual work experience for job seekers ages 14 to 24. So here's how it works. We assist you with job seeking skills, personal management skills, how to meet employer expectations, money management principles, good work habits, and more. After training is complete, you'll receive job placement, allowing you to implement your newly developed skills. And here's the really cool part. You get paid while you learn. That's right. You receive $11 an hour while participating in the virtual training, then transitioning to a minimum of $12 an hour upon work experience placement. This, my friend, is an exciting opportunity to earn while you learn. To sign up or learn more, visit cwdregion.com/career club. That's cwdregion.com/career club. And now, let's get back to learning about how to live life with balance with Christy Wright. I don't know if anybody else is guilty of this, but I will literally write things on my to-do list that I've done just so I can check a box.
And
Like,
I talk
I've
about
got
that.
issues.
I
I'll
talk
admit
about
it.
that. I talk about that in the book. I don't know if you've gotten there yet, but there is an actual psychological phenomenon going on there. So the chemical that our brain releases when we do drugs or check Instagram, dopamine. It is the reward seeking loop in our brain that tells us to do that more. We get the same dopamine release when we check a box on our to-do list.
Interesting. I
So
got counseling today.
that is why we go back and we put things on so we can
Yeah.
check them off, to get that
Wow.
feeling of productivity, even though that actually didn't have to occur. It's the same reason that we put things on our to-do list that don't actually have to be done, because it's this reward seeking loop where our brain is telling us to do that more.
So I am not the only one with issues. That's good to know. It's
I
good to
do the
know.
same thing.
So speaking of that though, how can we actually take back our time when we have a million things to do?
Yeah, well, I think that we make the mistake of creating balance or managing our time when we try to work with what we've already got. When we say, okay, I'm already in the weeds. Let me just try to weed through this. Let me try to reorganize the puzzle pieces. That's not a good way to get there because you're going to be overwhelmed with what's already going on. You can't see clearly. Okay.
Mhm.
So, what I want people to do is zoom out almost like a clean slate. Now, we know it's not a clean slate. You've got responsibilities and commitments, but let's just pretend. Let's suspend reality here for a second and say, what matters to you right now? Now, the reason I say right now, because again, it's doing the right things at the right time, it's very important to consider the season that you're in when you walk through this path. So I lay out 5 steps in the book of the path to balance, and I'll walk through this in just a second. But they're all in relation to your season. Because as I talk about in the book, what mattered to me in high school is not what mattered to me when I was 25, is not what
Right.
mattered to me when I was 32, is not what mattered to me 6 months ago.
Right.
So we have to be willing to acknowledge the season we're in because that will always inform what's important to us. So you zoom out and you say, okay, in this season, with what's going on with my family, in this season, with what's going on with work, in this season of life, with my health, with my goals, in this season, what matters most? What is right? The question, the way that I've been saying it a lot recently is what's right now?
Hmm.
What's right now for me in this season? When you ask yourself this
Love that.
simple but powerful question, what's right now? It brings clarity to what you want to be spending your time on so that you can actually spend time on it. But it also gives you permission to shake the guilt and FOMO for all the things that are not right now.
Hmm.
Because they're not right now, and they might be right later, or they might never be right. But either way, they're not right now. So let me give you an example. This past summer, what was right for me, like when I painted the picture of my summer, what do I want my summer to look like? I didn't work Fridays. I went to the lake almost every single weekend. I worked out. I played with my kids a ton. Like we had an awesome summer. Well, now I'm shifting. I'm switching into work mode. This is
Mhm.
my book launch. I'm all in. I've got long days. I am focusing on work and that's intentional. So what's right now? Launching this book. I'm
Right.
so excited to see how it's going to help people. Well, there was a day just last week where I got to the office at 6:30 a.m. for a satellite media tour. I did not leave till 8:30 or 9 that night. I never saw my kids that day. But you know
Mhm.
what? That was right that day. But if
Right.
I evaluated my success as a mom on that day, I would come up with the evaluation that I'm failing. No, I'm not failing. I'm doing what's right now. And so when you ask yourself what's right now, it gives you permission to focus on it. It helps you be more proud of it. And it helps you shake the guilt of all the things you're not doing because
Mhm.
they're not right now. So you start to look at your season. And even within that, in a given week, okay, what's right this week? And even within that, a given day, okay, what's right today? What's most important today? And I walk through
Yeah.
the book and help, and women are really bad about this, but I help you prioritize. All things are not created equal. Paying your bills is not the same as reorganizing the attic, but we treat them as if they're all equal.
Right.
So I help you prioritize and identify what's most important in this season. And then I walk you through the path. So step one is to figure out what matters. So what matters most right now? Step two, stop doing what doesn't matter. What are all those things that are not important that we're going to cut out? Step three, create a calendar that reflects what matters. It's super tactical, but if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen.
Mhm.
Step four, protect what matters. And that means setting boundaries and saying no to protect this balance you work so hard to create. And then the fifth and final step is be present for what matters. Because
Mm.
even if you create the most perfect schedule in the world, if you're not present for it, you miss it.
Right.
If you do these things, if you truly follow these 5 steps in any new season, and by the way, if you enter a new season, you go back to step one and say, okay, what matters now? My child, all my kids just went to school. Now I've got time. What matters now?
Mhm.
Or I've got a child that's really struggling. What matters most right now? When you begin to follow this path in each season, then you're doing the right things at the right time and you will feel that sense of balance. It's
Right.
very tactical, but that's what I love about it because I take this idea of balance that has been evading us forever and say, hey, here's the definition and here's the path. And if you do it, you will feel it. And I promise it works.
Mm. So you were talking about as you were preparing for summer, you're like, this is what is right now. So what did that preparation time look like for you? Like you're getting ready to go into summer. How did you plan that out? This is what's right now.
So the rhythms of my work and my kids are typically on a 3 season, I mean, four technically, I guess, but 3 seasons per year. So you've got a fall semester, spring semester, and summer break. So that's the way their school calendars fall, but that's also how my work falls. I've got a busy fall, a busy spring, and then summer's super easy for me. So I typically plan my rhythms at the beginning of those 3 seasons.
Okay.
But what that looks like is I begin to kind of cast a vision at the beginning of the season and say, what do I want this season to look like? A way that I walk through it in the book is I zoom out and say, who do I want to be? Because sometimes asking what you want to do is hard, but you can say, who do I want to be in this season? And then once you start to think about who you want to be, the adjectives you want to have, then you begin to know what to do that will allow you to be the person you want to be. And so at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the spring, for example, I identified, hey, and it can get really tactical, like really specific. At the beginning of the spring, I painted the picture and I said, you know what I want to focus on this spring? I really want to focus on getting my kids to learn to swim. 4 and 6 years old, they're old enough developmentally to be able to swim. We're around water too much. We've tried the last few years with group lessons, it hasn't worked. This is the year. Well, because I decided that that was a top priority, that mattered to me in the spring season. Well, then that informed how I managed my calendar because I
Mm-hmm.
then plotted every Friday afternoon I was going to pick them up from school, take them to the swimming pool, and get in the pool and practice. And that's what I did. Now, would I have rather gone to a happy hour with some friends on Friday afternoon in February? Yes. Yes, I
Don't
would
even
have.
have to think about it.
But what would have happened is I would have gotten to May and my kids can't swim. And I'm like, oh, my
Right.
kids can't swim. I'm failing as a mom because I wasn't doing the right things. Instead, I identified what was right. I actually did what was right. And guess what? My kids are swimming and it's freaking awesome. So I
Mm-hmm.
just want to help people cast a vision and say, what matters to you in the season? What's most important? In the summer, maybe it's vacation, maybe it's picnics and popsicles and working less and leaving every day at 3 o'clock if you can. Maybe in a different season it looks different with your business and with your work. The
Right.
what I encourage people to do is think about the main categories of your life that take the most time. So what's going on with your work? What's going on with your family? What's going on with your health? Those are the three. What's going
Right.
on with your goals? And then you can begin to say, hey, this is a season where my work really needs me. But and I'm going to focus on that, but the kids are fine. Or a season when I need to focus on one of my kids, whatever that looks like. If you've got a newborn, you're in the trenches. If you're in a season where you look at this, and let's just say hypothetically, I'm not right now, but let's just say if you were in a season where you're like, I've got two major areas
Mm-hmm.
that really need me. I'm an accountant. It's spring. I'm going into tax season, and I've got a child that is really struggling. When you begin to see that, you've got two really major
Mm-hmm.
priorities. First of all, you're going into a hard season, so you can mentally prepare. This is going to be hard, but it's a season. It will not last forever. You can also begin to, in advance, get help. How can I get help at work? How can I get help at home? How can
Right.
I get help for this season? But for the most part, we usually don't have two. We usually have one that takes priority because that's the thing going on, and everything falls in line behind that. And we
Mm-hmm.
force it to because we think about it in advance. And so
Yeah.
it really comes down to thinking through what matters to you right now and then following the path from there to actually spend time on it.
Right. I think too that goes back to Gail Hyatt says you lose your way when you lose your why. And the first time I ever heard those words, it just knocked me down. And it goes back to knowing what matters, and you've got to know your why, and your why might change in seasons. But I don't think you can have one without the other.
Well, it's true, and one thing I wanna call out because I think people get priorities confused, and I wanna clarify something really quickly. I think Christians definitely get this confused. So we think of priorities as a set it and forget it thing, as if priorities we have one set of priorities for our entire lives, and they are fixed. If I ever talk about priorities, I will hear people say sometimes, "My priorities are God, others, and self in that order." That is fantastic. That's a wonderful Sunday school answer. That is
Right.
very impractical for real life time management. So while you may have fixed priorities of something like that, that means when all hell breaks loose, this is what matters most in this order. Sure. But for the rest of the time, you're going to need a practical, tactical, more specific list of priorities, which looks like work, my boys swimming in swim lessons, working out, clean house. So if something's going to fall off the map, it's going to be the clean house because I got to get my work done.
Right.
And I'm probably going to get my kids swimming before I work out. It's going to be more specific to the season you're in, and it's going to be more specific to what is important to you, that you can actually spend time on those things, not God, other, self, in that order.
Mm-hmm.
So I really walk through what flexible priorities looks like and how those priorities shift and change in any given season. Having fun was a top priority this summer. It's not really on my radar this fall. I am trying to get my book out
Right.
there. I'm trying to finish seminary, the class that I'm in right now. I'm trying to just do the main thing. So see, your season will inform what matters to you and
Mm-hmm.
what your priorities are, and even how many priorities you can make time for in a given season. In the summer, I made time for a lot. And this fall, I've got like two, like
Right.
work and
But they're
family.
big.
I'm not right.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing friends. I'm not keeping my house clean. I'm not working out very much. So
Right.
people need to understand the tactical application of priorities and how they should be specific. And by the way, when your season changes or your day changes, you have permission to change your priorities, change your plan, change your mind. It's your life. And so you have permission
Right.
to change that.
Yeah. So you're not cleaning your attic anytime soon?
Not anytime.
Not doing it.
Maybe ever. Till we
So we
move. Till I have to.
Right. We have a variety of different listeners on the show, from government leaders to entrepreneurs to also that single mom who is striving to survive and raise her kids and pursue a career pathway. What would you say are some of the next right steps for her to take to live that guilt-free life and find balance?
I'll say two things. One's tactical and one's more inspirational. It's not as tactical. Let me give you the tactical first. Because of the natural restraints of your reality, you're a single mom, you're doing everything yourself. And depending on their situation, depending on if they have childcare or they have help, whatever, the restraints are so much is on them. They have very real restraints. So here's what I would say: lower the bar.
Hmm.
Whatever the mom that has help and a husband and all the things is doing has nothing to do with what you're doing. Any possible area that you can find ways to make your life easier, whether that is grocery delivery, kids buying their lunch at school instead of you packing it, sending your kids in a carpool on the bus. I mean, anything. Don't hold yourself to this perfect standard of I have to home make my lunches and I have to drop off my kids and I have to do all these things. I have to be at all the PTA meetings. I have to volunteer for the class. No, you lower the bar as much as you can because all the things you're doing are already so much on you. So the tactical side is find ways to make your life easier anywhere, anyhow that you possibly can. Take the pressure off yourself,
Right.
is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
The second thing I would say to the single mom specifically that is listening, or single dad for that matter, but I'll speak to single moms. My mom was a single mom and she built a business when I was 6 months old, started it with $64 to her name. And I was literally raised in the business. I was there at 2 and 3 in the morning when she was baking. I was there at 10 and 11 at night. It was anything other than a Pinterest perfect childhood. But the thing that I want the single moms to know is you are enough for your child. And your child is
Hmm.
not going to make it despite the struggle you're going through. They're going to make it because of it.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
character quality I have is because I was in the struggle with my mother. She didn't teach me to have character and integrity and fight and persist and work hard. She lived it out in front of me. And because I
Me
had a
too,
front
yeah.
row seat to this woman doing that, that is who I am today. And so I just want the single parents to know you are not failing your children. You are not giving them a less than life. You are more than enough, and they will make it not despite the struggle, but because of it.
Hmm. Amen. The end. Yeah.
I have such a heart
Yeah.
for the single moms
I do
because
too.
my
Yeah.
mom was
Mine too.
my
I
mom
was raised
was.
by a single mom who was working 3 jobs just to
That's
try
right.
to, to make it, and I've learned so many things from her through that journey. But we don't learn anything when life is easy. I mean,
Right.
really.
That's so true.
So if anybody is out there that does, please call me.
Yeah.
Um, we can't have all work and no play all the time in our world. And I know right now you're in a season where things aren't a lot of fun, but what do you like to do for fun?
Okay, so I love to be active with my kids. Like I know some moms like kind of sit on the sidelines. I'm in it. I'm in the pool, in the game, on the soccer field, on the playground, on the trampoline. Like I am in it. And I love playing with them. As far as outside of kid type things, I love to be outdoors. So my husband and I love to hike. We love to go to the lake. We love to water ski, wakeboard, go to concerts. Like we're super active family, especially I think for three little kids. So yeah, we actually love to do a lot of things of fun, even if it means we can squeeze it in here and there.
Yeah, love that. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for taking time out to
Yes,
hang
thank
out
you
with
for
us
having
today. I'm
me.
excited about your book. I genuinely am. It was very convicting. I don't want to talk about it. Um, is there anything else before we go that you want to share with our listeners?
I just hope they know they're doing a good job. That's the message. This book is not a message of do more. It's a
Hmm.
message of freedom. You're already doing a good job. I just want to help you realize that.
Yeah, I love that. So, where can listeners learn more about Take Back Your Time?
Yes, christywright.com/balance. They can get the book. And depending on when this airs, if they get it in pre-order before September 14th, they get the ebook, the audiobook free, and a ticket to my event on September 16th. So we try to reward people for ordering it in pre-order because it helps us with marketing, but
Yeah,
it'll launch on
absolutely.
September 14th.
I love that. Okay, well, you heard it here, and I would love to sit and talk with you all day. There's so much that I know we could talk about, but I know you've got 1,000 other things to do. Um, but you're doing the right things, so uh, so we appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I told you, friend, you were going to enjoy the show. Christy gave us a lot to think about in regards to taking back our time. And, we only scratched the surface today on how to get back on track to living a guilt-free life with balance. So go out and buy the book, my friend. It is so full of wisdom, full of practical application on how to take back your time. And we all need to figure out how to take back our time, right? One of my favorite things in the book is that at the end of each chapter, Christy provides journal questions for reflection. So this gives you the opportunity to, really just sit back and absorb what you've learned, then figure out what the next right step is to get back on the right track. You can find Take Back Your Time at christywright.com, on Amazon, or wherever books are sold. And don't forget to watch, or you can listen to the Christy Wright Show. I promise you, you will be better because of it. And before you head out for the day, would you do me a quick favor? Head on over to Apple Podcasts, follow the Workforce link, leave a review if you haven't already. Each review and rating helps others find us, and that is our goal, to help as many people as possible with our content. And if you haven't already, head on over to Facebook and Instagram and give us a shout out at Central WDB. Have a great week, my friend, and we will meet again in the next episode. Until then, remember this: there's always a brighter tomorrow if you're willing to find it. The Central Region Workforce Development Board Incorporated and COPIC are equal opportunity employers and programs. Auxiliary aids and services are available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Missouri Relay Services at 711.